more in Norwegian.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Can you hear me? Great. It's my first time in Zagreb and first time in Croatia. I'm definitely sure it's not going to be my last. I really enjoy it. And I want to say thank you to the Norwegian Embassy for inviting me, and also to KIKI, the Design Festival in Zagreb, and the conference here. It's an honor to be here and to be able to speak about what I'm so passionate about. I work at the Design and Architecture in Norway. We merged with the Architect organization not long ago, so we are in the process of finding our way together. However, in my field, I've been working across all design disciplines and architecture for a long time. But I'm not a designer, I'm actually from business. But that is a good combination. I've always been practicing and working with designers in all different fields, and I know the value of design and how that can really trigger innovation in many aspects, in many sectors, private and public, in so many ways. So it's a really powerful tool for innovation. And DOGA, is for short, our organization, is focusing on promoting the use of design and architecture to improve society in all aspects, to create quality and drive innovation for products, services, and environments, and so on. And so it's we do a lot of different activities at our center. I will talk a lot about people-centered design, inclusive design, as we also call it, and how that can be a strategy for innovation, focusing on people, involving people, and some tools and methods that we practice, that we have tested, and that we know are practiced around the world. I will show you some cases, Norwegian and international cases, and maybe some summary. And we can talk, and if you have some questions or something is unclear, tell me, but we will also do questions and have a debate later. So what is inclusive design? We also say universal design, design for all, participatory design. You know, there are many words for the same thing as we see it. We are not into the small discussions about terms. Oh, I'm too fast here. So it's about involving people. It's looking at who are the user, who are your clients, your customer. Well, it's us, you know. These are my colleagues at the center, at our famous Vigeland Park in Oslo. But as you can see, there are a lot of barriers, you know. Sometimes elevator would be better for all of us. So it's looking at people's needs and how to enable them in their environment. And also looking at diversity in terms of we have different cultures and ethnicity. Even in our country now, we have more than 10% who are not originally Norwegians. So we have to take that into consideration as well. And also, it's about disability, of course, impairments. They can be permanent or just temporarily. And 70% of disabilities are invisible. I'm sure you can't tell that I'm really disabled, but I am. I have a lot of metal in my hand because I broke my wrist. I broke my Achilles tendon. I'm actually limping every morning, and so on and so on. And I'm also very short-sighted, just to start with that. So it's about also how we change throughout our lifetime. I mean, it's about us at different stages of life, and we have to embrace that when we design. We say that people-centered inclusive design is a sustainable strategy, and it's important for society and for business and for, of course, the individual. I will just refer to, instead of me explaining what it is, I have a clip here from a very famous graphic designer from Wolf Olins. If some of you are graphic designers here, anyone? Yeah, you have heard of him? Yes. Yeah. And he is also passionate about inclusive design. And he was, for the previous UK government, he was appointed inclusive design ambassador. And just listen to what he says.
My job is to make inclusive design mainstream design. It shouldn't be a separate thing. There shouldn't be any design happening that doesn't take into account the different ways that people are, the different capacities that people have, the fact that some people see less well, or hear less well, or feel less well, or think less well, or move less well. Design has to embrace all of us.
Yeah, I think that's quite clear. It's about us. And in Norway, we have a government focus on this. In the public sector and government, they call it universal design. That's why I put it there, because they see that universal design is a very powerful strategy to achieve their ambitious vision of having an inclusive society where everyone can take part on equal terms. It's not only about accessibility. It's very important to know to distinguish between accessibility and universally designed environments, because it's about equality on equal terms and not stigmatizing. And our minister here, Solveig, she is promoting this effort and she is also coordinating the effort at the government between the ministries. And here she is talking at our conference last year in 2016, stressing also how important this approach is for business. Because we have come far in the public sector, but now also we see that industry, trade, business really can benefit from this approach. And that's her message. So it could also be our other minister who we report to, because our organization is funded by the Ministry of Industry and Fisheries. She could also say the same thing. That is Monica Mæland, and so they work together on this. Because in Norway, since 2005, you have an action plan, because that's an important tool for achieving all those ambitious visions ahead of us. And they started in 2005 with a 5-year plan, and then in 2010 and 15, and we are now on the 3rd plan. And they put milestones and how to achieve this, and each ministry have their own sector, and they have to commit to achieve each one of them. This is the last period, and see how ambitious the previous government was. They were really bold and say that by 2025 Norway is going to be universally designed. Well, that might be just a vision, but it's a really important goal and setting a direction. Now the 3rd one is they're all focusing on different sectors and areas. The first one were more on the built environment, on transportation, but of course continuing. Now ICT is very important, technology, because we all now use everyday technology, and that has to be inclusively designed. So now we have a lot of actions, from small ones to big ones, and we have our program is also part of this action plan. And it's from top down, but it's also bottom up. So all regions and municipalities are involved in this joint effort. And in Norway now, public and government communication is digital by default. Of course, we still have some citizens who are not that savvy digital-wise, but they are learning, and we have to make sure that all our digital communication is really universally designed so everyone can take part. So it's about people and people's needs and aspirations. What they feel, what they need, and how diversity is important to take into consideration. Because we as designers, we don't know what others might need and feel and think and aspire to. So we have to figure out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those tools and methods later. But it's about demographic changes, and we want to simplify our lives. The older generations to come now are very different from previous ones, you know, and we know we have an aging society. The world average above 65 8.1. But in Croatia, I noticed, you have an aging population, much more than us. So you better prepare for that. Because these are the baby boomers, you know. They are the icons. And of course, you know, Mick Jagger, many years ago, could travel free on the bus in London. And I'm sure Madonna, she needs a lot of chiropractors and therapists after her acrobatics. So that's the challenge. We want to live our life to the fullest, as always. But you know, you have to take into considerations that we move less well, like Michael Wolff said, we hear less well, our mobility, strength deteriorates. Did you know that women have 40% less strength in our hands than a man? Imagine then a woman at 65, 70, you know, to consider that when you make products and design things for us to use. So don't forget this, and don't forget that, at least in our region, who has the money, do you think? When do you have a positive equity? It's after 50. That's when you really, really start spending money. And you saw the women up there at the catwalk, the lovely models, the mannequins. Have you any idea who are the biggest spender on fashion and clothes in age frame in Scandinavia, that is? Have you any guess? 50 plus. It's actually the biggest spender are the group 54 to 59. But is the marketing and advertising matching that? No. So, it's the same. Who do you think buys sports car? Old men. It's like average some years ago was 54. And how does the advertisement look like? There is a lot of untapped potential for marketeers and advertisers to focus on that. But beware, don't stigmatize. Because what did this Fiat director say? He said, a young man will not buy an old man's car, but not even an old man will buy an old man's car. So you have to balance that carefully. And so when I started working in this field, people said, oh, you're working with universal design? Boring. It's not relevant for us. Our customers, we know who they are. They're younger, they're able-bodied, you know, they have money. So I've been since busting myths about, so I did this wheel, and I'm busting myths all the time. I'm still am. Because it's not about disabled people, it's not only for public sector, it's not about assistive technology, it's not another buzzword, it's here to stay. And it's really, really powerful. And you have to change your mindset. So that's what I do. I talk about innovation, I talk about the commercial value, I talk about competitive advantages, and so on. I will show you. This is from a book I did some years ago, because I started to gather all the information, the cases, the good examples, the tools and methods. We have some examples there. Because, of course, it's about good intention, to empower and enable people, of course. And we have human rights, the UN Convention, etc., etc. So there are many levels. But I also want to talk about how this is a strategy for innovation, for business, for trade. But you have to make sure that your commercial interests are combined with the social interests. And you have a big area here overlapping, and industry can drive that, but also public sector more and more. And who are your customers? Sometimes I ask you in the audience, put up your hand. Everyone. Take it down if you're above 35. Take it down if you're let's say wearing glasses or are using contact lenses. Okay, not so many left. take it down if you're left-handed. Great, and take it down if you're a woman. Fantastic, you're the one in the middle. It's tiny markets. So, don't design for the white male Caucasian. Go out on the ridge, on the rim here, and look at the needs of these. These people can tell you something interesting and powerful, and you should focus, because if you include them in your perspective, you will always include him, you know? So, but the other way, it's not the other way around. So it's always, look at people, diversity. They can all tell you something different and important, and you don't need many. But make sure that you have a wide range. People who have some sort of impairment, maybe with visual impairment, maybe some mobility issues, children, and people in a wheelchair maybe, or stressed business people. Their cognition, you know, is really, really narrowed, and so on. And all can tell you something important. So each project you will need different type of persons depending on what you're trying to find out. What is the problem for them? That's the question. But they will always challenge your solutions in different ways. And they will demand more, but also they will challenge your ideas and perspectives in different ways to drive your creativity. Even children can give great insights about for example, how intuitive a solution is, how much strength you need, and so on. So what we say is, this is my colleague Victoria. She is doing something like they did at OXO. I will talk more about that later. But it is actually not only a strategy to solve problems, because that's the theme here. Well, thank you. I don't have more bones to break. But it's also a way to detect new problems to solve that sometimes people are unaware of, because people are very clever at mastering and overcoming unnecessary barriers. So OXO did that. They observed people. Do you know OXO, anyone? It's a kitchen tool manufacturer, who an entrepreneur who was actually having a retirement and loved cooking, and he and his wife were going to cook in France. But all the tools were inaccessible for her because she had arthritis. So they cancelled retirement, went back to New York, and they did OXO. And it's based on inclusive design theory and strategy. It's all about observing. And the researchers asked people, what's the problem with this measure cup? Nothing. It's just a little bit difficult to read the numbers. But what they saw when they observed, that the people were bending down and refilling and never made it right. So they just come up with a new solution. But nobody noticed, was not aware of it. So that's when they came up with the mug that you just fill, and you can see immediately when you have the necessary amount. So I say qualitative, people-centered research is important, but should of course be combined with statistics, the traditional ones, to complement each other. I will not go into the details, but statistics, okay, but true insights, and like Martin Bontoft at IDEO says, empathic research, you get not a lot of truth, but you get a lot of inspiration. And it's like Dan Formosa, one of the founders of Smart Design, who also worked with OXO in the early days. It's much harder to make 6 real people love your product than that imaginary man in the middle. So we have identified a lot of activities. It's important to involve people at all stages, first to get the ideas and insights, to be challenged, but then also to test and develop and reiterate, etc. And it's not difficult. Anyone can do it. Any company who have a design process or development, this is a generic thing. Just make sure that you do it right and involve the people who you are designing for. We just simplified it. It's about 3 key methods: ranging from low contact with the user, medium, high contact, but also a level of information, the quality of information, etc. Ranging from a questionnaire, but also to workshop, controlled observation, etc., etc. It's not so difficult. Japan is a super aging society, and they are doing this, and they are doing research with people, and it's market-driven. In Norway, we are more public-driven, but they're the big names like Panasonic, like Toyota. I just wanted to tell you, this is a universally designed washing machine, but it's also energy efficient, etc. And all the brands in Japan has this. And it's really, really clever, because there's no excuse anymore for not doing the laundry. Everyone can do it. Toyota, I remember the Fiat, what he said. They did a mistake. They had this inclusively designed for older people vehicle. Nobody bought it. But then they changed their advertising and said, this is a lifestyle car. You can bring your surfboard, your kids, whatever you need of all your gear, you get this car, and you can save time because you just walk straight into it. It's not difficult. You won't bend hurt your back when you put your baby, etc. And it was a success. So it's about inclusive marketing as well. Another example from Japan, one of the most universally designed metro stations in Fukuoka in Japan. I've been there. It's amazing. They did a really, I could have talked about that for half an hour. Sadamura-san, the designer, he himself did a lot of all these methods from observation, focus groups, and he didn't talk about only with the business travelers and the commuters. He talked to tourists, to pregnant women, families with small children, people in wheelchair, the visually impaired. And that's why this is so beautifully made, so inclusive, everyone can travel there. Different heights, everyone can buy the tickets, it's not stigmatizing. There's no gap between the platform, and there are so many. And all the design disciplines are involved here, from architecture to graphic design. My station was the pink elephant, I think it was. And you know, they used color, they used icons, they used all kind of design elements to find your way. Here is Alex. He's from Hong Kong, but he's the CEO of OXO, and he is like, his testimonial stands still. They've been having an amazing growth just by applying this approach and using these methods, and they are so inventive. I love the products. We did a similar thing with a Norwegian window producer. I don't know, the Norwegians might know this brand, because it's quite big in Northern Europe and UK. They're big, very good quality windows, but they're not that well designed for everyone. So we challenged them. We can help you innovate. And we did, and it was amazing. Here are the designers. Here are we testing in a workshop with all kinds of lead users. And the ideas were flowing. And so at the end of the day, they didn't share it because, no, we're going to make patents out of this. And it was a small project. So this is the owner, and he said, we didn't realize the power of design until now. And these are some years ago. I just saw some of this innovative results in the market in smart houses. Fantastic, because glass and windows, you can do so much with that now. So he was really amazed. We did another project. When we started, we thought, what is something that everybody's concerned with every day, fighting and having troubles with? Packaging, consumer packaging, everyday packaging. You know, to open this Jordan toothbrush, you needed both scissors and plaster. Really dangerous. So we said, do you want to do a project with us? And so we did, and we just practiced our methods with shadowing in the shops, in supermarkets, controlled observation, the visually impaired trying to find the Jordan in the shop, children trying to open it, people visually impaired trying to figure out, is this a soft brush or is it a hard brush or whatever. And we got so much valuable, but we only had like 9 lead users in the total project, so it's a small research. And the results were amazing. Not only did they increase their market share from 50 to 70% in 3 months, they had letters from consumers. Oh, thank you, Jordan, for making this such a nice package. And the branding got improved. It was easy to open, etc., etc. All the information was there. They distinguished themselves from the competitors. So they were really happy. So we are looking for all the good examples to convince and to bust all the myths that it's expensive, because it wasn't. It was just about the mindset and the planning. And another project we did was, because we said, what is the problem for who? And that's fitting very well with the topic here. So we did a research with some typical lead users in a normal house. And we were observing a lot of problems, but they overcome all the problems. People want to master their life, of course. So when we asked this blind person, he said, oh, I'm cooking for my family every day. No problem. Really? No problem? No. Oh, show us. And then he showed us with a magnifying light and magnifying light and light and magnifier at the same time. And he was bending like this, you know, to make sure that his cooker was on the right. Totally unnecessary. But he had no problems. He was cooking. So it's all about, we wanted to detect all the problems in a normal house, so they could be an innovation potential. There are many examples of improvement since 2005. So we identified problems with plugs and in 2005, and in 2013, one of our Norwegian design talents came up with this brilliant idea. It's a little bit like a magnetic suction, like the iPad, the Apple. So he's a rich man now. But it took some time, because we had so many ideas everyone can just use. What's the problem here? How many chairs do you need to buy for your child? Just one, because Peter Oksvik, he developed Hrvatsko. He had one user, one observation, one problem, global success. So, a little bit about what we do. I run this program called Innovation for All program since 2005. It's part of the government action plan. It's about knowledge transfer, like we do now, exchanging, learning from each other, and also do some projects like we did with the Windows, etc. We work across all sectors, with users, with the government, with research, all the design communities, of course business, and yeah. And we did this book, and it's still useful. It presents how easy it is to get started, and you can start tomorrow. It's all in your head. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. And we work very closely with the Helen Hamlin Center for Design at Royal College of Art, who are one of my co-authors here, and we still work together. But not everyone wants a paper copy, so we have a website called inclusivedesign.no, and to be inclusive, of course, it's not in Norwegian, it's in English. So you can get some inspiration there and look at some tools and methods. And also we do conferences like you do here. Every second year we have a big conference, and one year we had Her Majesty Mette-Marit, Her Royal Highness, I think it is, Her Royal Majesty. I've been in Japan, but then there's Imperial Highness, and I get confused. Anyway, she is the only princess talking about the value of inclusive design on YouTube. You should look at it. So also we do workshops, because talk is cheap, doing is much more important. So design thinking is one thing, design doing is what we try to do. And sometimes we share in exhibitions, we travel around with the Norwegian examples and what we know. Now we are tomorrow is the deadline for our Innovation Award. This is the ministry, this is the minister, this is the jury leader, the winner of the last project, a big hospital in Trondheim, St. Olav's Hospital, which is an international award winner. He's the jury leader. I'm just hoping, crossing fingers, we have a lot of new projects to talk about. So, these are the winners from 2011. A short video.
Vi skal ikke være et handicap-hus eller et helsekosthus eller noe som helst. Vi er til for absolutt alle, på like premisser. Men vi jobber strategisk og bevisst inn mot ulike foreninger for at de skal vite hva vi har gjort for dem.
Alle rom her på Zagreb Design er malt med helsevennlig maling. Det er en maling som er anbefalt av Allergiforbundet å utvikle sammen med Jotun. Den har ekstremt lav avgassing, veldig snill avgassing, og det betyr at det gir liten belastning for innemiljøet og for gjestene på hotellet.
Når Astma- og Allergiforbundet kom på banen, så ble jo de en daglig samarbeidspartner i prosjektet da. Og det som samarbeidet innebar var blant annet alt av inneklima, liksom at ventilasjonen ble utformet på en korrekt måte, jobbing med allergier, mat og drikke.
Alle Zagreb sine overnattingsrom er allergivennlige. Så Zagreb har på mange måter fjernet seg litt fra begrepet allergirom. De har rett og slett tatt steget ut og gjort alle sine overnattingsrom allergivennlige. Alle rommene er teppefrie. De har valgt interiør som er lett å holde rent. Sengeteppet her det er tynt og enkelt å rengjøre og putte inn i vaskemaskinen. Det samme er med gardinene, som der har valgt glatte materialer der støvet faller lett av og enklere å vaske.
Det här var ett sätt att skapa avskärmning i det här stora restaurangrummet med den här lite tunnare materialet som skapar en bra visuell avskärmning men inte samlar på så mycket damm.
Altså de fulle detaljene ser man ikke hvis man ikke litt sånn observant. Og for eksempel går til resepsjonsdisken, så ser man at det en liten sånn kjeppholder som festet på resepsjonen. Og det tenker man ikke over, men det jo det som så fint med dette hotellet, liksom at det sånne små detaljer gjennom hele som gjør at det godt tilrettelagt for alle da. Jo tidligere man starter, jo mindre koster det. Og det valg man må ta. Vi ser at dette her jo en kostnad som på en måte fort hentet.
Vi får stadig tilbakemelding fra gjester, men også fra ansatte som etter lang karriere i hotellbransjen kan jobbe her og slutte med tung medisinering. Fordi at livet blir helt annerledes når man tar hensyn.
Universell utforming, sånn som det utformet her, man kommer ikke dit hvis ikke du har noen vaktbikkjer som passer på. Det at noen står frem til en forskrift, det for løst. Det blir for lett bortforklart, og man kan alltid argumentere med den ene eller andre løsningen om hvordan man har kommet til mål. Men du må ha med deg byggherre, leietaker, rådgivere og engasjerte mennesker på den siden av bordet. Og de må være med hele veien. Og de må også lære de som skal bygge. De kan ikke alt. De må bruke sin spesialkompetanse og bistå i detaljer.
Vi har jo gjort dette her også av økonomiske hensyn. Liksom vi ser jo at dette bra for oss, at det en god business også. Og ikke bare, at vi gjør det fordi vi synes det bra, men også vi ser jo at dette også en mulighet for oss å få en bedre inntjening, helt klart.
Vi i Astma- og Allergiforbundet skal gi en honnør til Zagreb for å gått foran og vist at det går an å lage et hotell som tilgjengelig for alle. Det kun et knippe hoteller i Norge der vi kan for eksempel ha landsmøte for våre tilsatte. Zagreb etter dem.
The interesting thing here, this is in 2011. Now they're expanding because they have gained competitive advantage in a very competitive market. And they have universal design as a business strategy. I think that's quite interesting. This is one of my last slides. In 2014 we had a hospital, amazing hospital, also urban planning project. We had a school university in Bergen. We had a payment solution for a doctor's office. The light rail system in Bergen. An outdoor area, public outdoor area, and also taxpayers' website to make it simple and easy for everyone to understand and to pay their taxes. And also there are many other winners from cutlery to the weather forecast site y.no. I understand that you because they made it really, really user-friendly and open source. So there are a lot to be learned. And there are some common success criteria. That's my last one. It's all these winners, they had a vision, and they were very committed to focus on the vision, and they made goals, and they made guidelines to follow throughout. And also they had a very, very vast interdisciplinary collaboration. It's not like a one-man show. Here are the winners with the minister in 2014, and we are looking at getting new and exciting projects to prove that inclusive design is really, really powerful for society, for business, and for the individual, and that it's something that everyone can take on. So that was my last slide. Please take contact if you have any questions. And I would just say, I don't know how to say that, but I will try. Voila. And also,